In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about allergies in autism and some of what the research says. Now, I'll start off with a quote here. So, this is from a paper that I cite in my book, Autism Wellbeing Plan: How to Get Your Child Healthy. And the quote goes as, "Practicing physicians should be aware of the potential impact of allergic diseases on behavioral symptoms and cognitive activity in ASD children." So, allergic disorders can play a role in behavioral symptoms that can be attributed to the autism, and they can affect the cognitive activity of children, right? So this is why it's important to, at the very least, test your child for the most common allergies, just to make sure that compounds in food or other allergens in the surrounding environment are not a cause for allergic reactions, because this is, at least when they're food related, it's an area where you have a great deal of control. So it's just another one of those things that you either rule out, or in the case that it is a factor for your child, you do something about it. For example, if it's an egg allergy that you may have not been aware of, you just remove the eggs from the diet. So things like that are very important to identify early on and either rule out or do something about them, right? So basically, the research is showing us that there is a higher prevalence of allergies in autistic individuals. These include asthma, hay fever, and eczema as the most common. And just to give you a brief overview, basically an allergy is a hypersensitivity disorder of the immune system. So we have, several departments, if you want to call them that, of the immune system. And we have this innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. So the innate immune system is what we're born with. It's also called a cell-mediated immune response when that is activated. And then we have the adaptive immune system, which, as we're exposed to pathogens as we grow up, we start to, our immune system starts to recognize pathogens, starts to create antibodies to certain antigens. And basically, an allergy involves dysregulation of both of those departments of the immune system, right? So it's a fairly complex dysregulation of the immune system. And as I talk about in chapter 2 of my book, dysregulated immune system is a very common feature in autism, right? So what the point here is that while we cannot control all the factors in your child's immune system, there's a lot of factors that are within your control. And one of those is, for example, identifying foods that your child is either allergic to or intolerant to or sensitive to. So there's slight differences there. But if you can identify factors that contribute to dysregulating your child's immune system and remove those factors, you're actually going to see tremendous benefits in terms of your child's health, right? Because an overactive immune system can cause any number of disorders, from, in the case of today's topic, allergies, but it can also cause other things like autoimmunity. That's obviously a very big example. So here's some of the research and what it says, right? So one large study found that asthma was 35% more common in children with autism than their peers. So 35% more common in the autistic children. Another study found a higher risk of developing asthma and other allergic disorders in autistic individuals. So it seems that allergies are more common in autism, and children that are autistic have a higher likelihood or a higher chance of developing asthma as they grow up, right? So this kind of goes back to what I said about, that's why chapter 2 of my book, so early in the book I cover immune dysregulation, because it is actually such a common feature, such a important feature of autism is a dysregulated immune system. Now, it's obviously the immune system is extremely complex, and we we actually know very little about it compared to the complexity of this such a system with so many different aspects. We haven't even identified all the molecules, all the immune molecules and mediators the body produces, right? But the point there is that you need to, with the help of your practitioner, of course, identify whatever factors are causing immune dysregulation in your child, right? So this is just one of those pieces of the puzzle. Now, in some cases, allergies can actually influence autism severity and some of the core behaviors. Researchers have found children with more severe autism to have a higher prevalence of allergic disorders. Another paper that I read reported that autistic children not only had more allergies than the neurotypical controls in that study, but the autistic children who had gut problems had more allergic disorders than those without gut symptoms. And the researchers also noted that autism severity was associated with higher blood levels of IgE antibodies. So IgE, the immunoglobulin G, these are the predominant allergic antibodies, right? So the researchers measured those IgE antibodies in the blood, and the children with the higher IgE allergic markers basically tended to have more severe autism symptoms. So there's a correlation between allergic markers, IgE, and autism severity in at least one study. I can't remember if any other studies I went through for the book to research the book also mentioned that. Now, another thing, because allergies can cause stress, pain, discomfort, and sleep deprivation, they can also contribute to irritability, hyperactivity, and otherwise aggravate the behavioral symptoms in autistic children. Now, this is another quote from the study that I gave you a quote at the start of the episode, right? So same paper. This is what the doctors say. It has been our experience that in ASD children, behavioral changes caused by both IgE and non-IgE mediated diseases are often attributed to just being autistic, and no proper diagnosis and treatment for the child's condition was implemented prior to their arrival at our facility. Our observation indicates that the need for physicians involved in the care of ASD children to be aware of the importance of diagnosing common allergic as well as non-allergic diseases in these children. It is also important for the physician to not attribute certain symptoms displayed by ASD children to just being autistic, even if the symptoms are frequently associated with ASD. So this is from a clinic, and the paper is published from the guys they have a clinic in the USA, and basically they treat a lot of autistic children, and they're kind of like a later port of call, after the primary care physician and so on, after the parents see very little kind of success in terms of improving their child's health. And basically what, as mentioned here, it seems that many physicians are attributing certain behavioral changes just to the autism and are not doing any deeper investigation to see what could be causing those behavioral changes or symptoms. And as these guys that published the paper said, a significant part of the time it is because there's some type of either IgE, like an allergic type disorder or condition, or non-IgE mediated diseases, right? So this kind of goes to what I was saying earlier. You need to identify not just allergies, because a lot of the time allergies, like especially food allergies, they're identified early on in life due to like an emergency. Let's say your child eats peanuts or egg and has a severe reaction. Those are can be identified in some cases easily or early in life, but other non-IgE mediated immune reactions, for example, food sensitivities, right? So you can have a food sensitivity that is mediated by IgG immunoglobulins, and those can also cause immune reactions that can cause other, that can cause symptoms, that can cause skin issues, behavior changes, trouble sleeping, irritability. There's a lot of, this is important for people to know, that food sensitivities do not just cause physical symptoms in a person, like gut problems, but they can cause behavioral changes. They can affect the mind, they can affect the brain, because those IgG antibodies, they're in the blood, for example, and they're attacking molecules, they're causing inflammation, and those molecules, they're traveling all around the circulatory system, and they can end up in the central nervous system, they can end up in the brain. So this is very important, that many people are still unaware that food sensitivities, allergies, and any other immune reactions can manifest as symptoms, behavioral changes, mood changes, depression, irritability, and even um, uh, aggression in some cases, right? So this is important. So this was a very important paper that I think to a large extent has been overlooked, right? But it is important for you to know that this is just, especially if you're early on in your journey of getting your child healthy, this is one of the few things that are actually quite easy to do, to go to a clinic, to do either like a patch test, a skin prick test for allergies, and identify any allergens. And then once you identify the allergens, just obviously you would try to steer clear of them, right? So that's kind of goes without saying, right? So that was a little episode on allergies and autism. This episode is for the first time being recorded on video. So I'm going to put this on YouTube. So if you like to consume content on YouTube, I'll have my YouTube link there. My idea is to start putting out video content as well as the podcast. Hopefully, as I get better at it, it's actually pretty complicated, but as I get better at it, the video podcast will have more graphics and things that, it just will improve the content experience, not just me talking, but maybe like presentations, stuff like that. And I hope to have other videos outside of the podcast that are a little bit more in depth. Maybe we'll be looking at more specific studies that might be of interest to you. It really depends on how it goes, right? So my hope is to get better at producing content so that you get more value out of it. And this is episode 49 of the podcast. So the next episode will be episode 50, which, to mark the milestone, I am going to be giving away 10 paperback copies of my book, Autism, Wellbeing Plan, How to Get Your Child Healthy. So I just got the paperback ready. It's on Amazon. It is ready to order. So with the next episode, I'll announce like a little giveaway. And just in case you are interested in getting one of those 10 free copies of the paperback, all you have to do is either reach out to me on any social media channel, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, or send me an email at cy@christianyordanov.com, cy@christianyordanov.com. You can send me an email, say, I want a copy of the book, and I'll work with you then to send you a copy of the book. So I hope that you found this episode useful, and I hope to see you on the next one.